Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Lvly, and today, after popular requests from you guys in the comments section on YouTube, we're exploring your climate control on your Mercedes-Benz. Now, as always guys, this does vary from model to model, so if you're not entirely sure, get in touch with your local Mercedes-Benz and they can give you personalised and tailored advice on your own specific car. However, in this video, we're going through a walkthrough guide of all the buttons, and if you wait to the very end, I'm going to do my famous tips and tricks, but specifically on climate control on your Mercedes. So let's have a look at what all the buttons do. So then guys, an overview of all of the buttons. Now, as I said, your climate control will either look something like this one, just here. So you can see it's just this bank of switches across. Now, if you have another model, it could look a bit like this one, or you could have digital kind of dials along the bottom with kind of a display in the dial. Or even if you have like one of the newest Mercedes that have come out this year, then it could be all digital on a screen at the very, very bottom. Now, most of the buttons are going to be very, very similar, so some of the terminology I use in this video will be exactly the same. Just have a look because a button might be in a slightly different place to what I'm showing here. So, in this particular car, these two buttons here are your temperature control for the driver and passenger. Quite simply, just adjust the right hand side to do the driver side and then the left hand one for the passenger side. Now in some cars, Mercedes-Benz have got a nice little neat trick that when you adjust that temperature, it will make the ambient lighting go red to indicate you're making it warmer on this side, and then of course blue for cold. Now I have got them set to blue at the moment so you won't see that, but a nice little neat trick there to show you what's happening when you adjust your temperature. Now the next one across here on the left hand side is a menu button. Now I'm going to leave that just to the very end, so I'm going to skip that button just for now, and you'll see why later. So one after this is the fan speed, so this is how you adjust your fan speed up or down, and you'll notice that as you use these buttons, because there's no display on here, including the temperature, you'll see that it'll adjust that temperature just on here on the screen like this, including the fan speed, just like this here, so you can increase that intensity or lower that intensity just like that. The button after this is auto, so that is an automatic fan speed. You can of course control that fan speed manually if you want to, but the car can do it automatically as well. So say it's really cold outside, I don't know, like -5 outside or something, and you want it nice and warm in here, 25 degrees. So if you make that change, the car, if it's on auto fan speed, is going to put that fan speed up fairly high to get it to the temperature you've asked it. And then when it gets to that temperature, it'll kind of settle off. But if you don't want the fan blaring away and blowing in your face or anything, then you can just adjust that on there and turn off the auto and then adjust that fan speed manually, or even turn it off. So that's what that does. The next one across is a max button for the front windscreen. So this is a front demisting button for the windscreen. So very, very useful if it's icy outside or it's just a bit misty from kind of morning dew or something like that. But if you tap that one, that'll put everything to the front, just like this. And tap it again to turn it off. So that is max demisting for the front. The next one across is the only odd one out on this bank of switches, and that is your hazard switch. So of course that's your hazards, just tap that on to turn it on, and tap it again to turn it off. The button after that is the rear window demister. So if you tap that one on, you'll get a little orange light there to indicate it's on. So that will demist the rear window just in case it's a little bit misty or even icy and that sort of thing. So that's that one. After this we have a recirculation button, so this is if you want to stop any outside air coming into the car. So that could be one or two things. Maybe you're driving behind a smelly car or something, or driving past some smoke from a bonfire, or maybe you're driving past some sewage works or something like that and you don't want the exterior air to come in. Can be quite useful as well in the summer. Say it's really hot outside, you don't want to draw any warm air in, you just want to keep the cool air in here. You can tap that and it will shut off all the vents to stop any exterior air coming in. Speaking of the summer, air conditioning. Now air conditioning doesn't just have to be used in the summer to cool the interior of a car down. Believe it or not, it can be used in the winter as well. So Air conditioning doesn't just cool an interior of a car, it also boosts the heating as well. And it also does a third thing, it actually removes moisture from the air, a bit like a dehumidifier. So have you ever noticed before when you get into like a car when it's been raining outside and you've got like a wet coat on and suddenly all of your windows mist up? If you put your air conditioning on, it will demist all of your windows on the inside. And then finally, the button after this is auxiliary heating. Now, this is only found on plug-in hybrids and all-electric cars, mainly because in most internal combustion engines, so like a petrol or diesel, they have an engine, and the way the heating works, it extracts heat from that engine and brings it in here nice and clean. However, with an all-electric car, they don't have an engine, so they have an auxiliary heater to make its own heat for the occupants on the inside. So the way this works is if I switch this off and say it's nice and warm in here and you're about to go into the shops or something, if I tap this button, it can put that heating on or cooling and keep it nice and cool or warm on the inside, ready for when you come back again. Now this is also operated via the Mercedes Me app, so say you, I don't know, woke up in the morning, it was really frosty, you can actually de-ice your car before you even get to it, get it nice and toasty, or even pre-cool your car if it's really hot outside. So that's what this is, that's your auxiliary heating or cooling for basically plug-in hybrids or all-electric cars. And then finally guys is that menu button that I mentioned that we would cover at the end. So tapping menu puts all of those buttons up there onto the screen. Now it doesn't do that for all models. I do remember some models a few years ago that I had sat in that it doesn't do that. It was mainly for kind of rear climate control, which I'll cover in a second. But basically what this does, it puts the climate control up to the screen. So you can adjust the temperature here up and down just like this. Now in some cars actually it does also show you this button here called sync, which on this car isn't here. What sync does is actually synchronize both sides of the car. So for example here I can set the climate control to 22.5 degrees for this side, but then the passenger side is 20 degrees. Now if I want it to be exactly the same, I can tap the sync button and then it's going to mirror both sides, and then the driver's side here will kind of do both sides. Quite useful if you're on your own in the car. Now if you're lucky enough to have rear climate control, then you may find a control panel in the back of the car as well. So this actual car here is quite unique. It's actually got quad zone climate control, meaning the driver, passenger and the two rear passengers have their own climate control as well. Sadly the middle passenger will just have to make do, I guess, but yeah, quad zone climate control. So in here you can actually adjust where the air comes out, so you've got to your face, to your feet, mixture of the two, or auto, let the car do it automatically. Then you've got the actual temperature control here, so you can make it colder, warmer, just like this, and the fan speed as well, make that a bit more, less, or just turn the whole thing off. So each control for this side and this side, all controlled here. Then of course you've got the vents, you can move those around there, just like that. Now if you're up front, then you may also want to change the climate control for the back. This is where you'll use that menu button that I just mentioned, and in there you'll see the rear climate control, which you can adjust and of course change to your liking. So say your passengers in the back, for example, have left it really hot, and say it was 25 degrees in the back here and you're the only person in the car, it's probably unlikely you're going to want this wall of heat in the back. That's why you'll use the sync button up the front to make sure it's all the same for the front and back. So then guys, on to the tips and tricks on climate control. Now if you're lucky enough to have one of the later multimedia systems called MBUX, which kind of first came out in 2018 on some models and kind of rolled out to a few more after that, this has MBUX. So it also features that Hey Mercedes voice assistant. So did you know you can actually get that voice assistant to change the temperature while you're on the move? Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?
Can you change the temperature to 20 degrees please?
I have set the temperature to 20 degrees.
Now next on the list is make sure you use your air conditioning. I've seen countless times where people turn air conditioning off, and of course then it's been raining, they have a wet coat and they get in a car and then all their windows mist up. So did you know if you have your air conditioning on, it actually removes moisture from the air and will actually demist all of your windows at the same time. And yes, you can use it with cool and heat as well. You don't have to just use it on cool, which I know a lot of us refer air conditioning to. You can use it with heat as well, and it acts as a dehumidifier. Now here's a hidden tip and trick for you, and this involves your recirculation button here. So as I just mentioned in the previous section, you can tap that and it stops the exterior air coming in, so nice and easy. But there is a hidden feature on this particular button. So say you put your windows down, maybe to about there for example, and say you're about to drive through a tunnel and you want all of your windows up, or say you're about to drive through an area where it might be a bit smelly, or I said there's smoke outside or something. Yes, you could put all your windows up over here, but watch this. If you hold the recirculation button, all these windows will go up. And when you've driven past said object, or say the smoke or whatever like that, when you've got through the tunnel, if you hold that button again, the windows will go back to exactly the same place they were before. And did you know that on the heated rear window, if you put that on, of course it heats your rear window and demists that one, but it also heats your mirrors as well. So not many people know that. If you've got lots of condensation or kind of water residue on them from when it's been raining or something, if you put your heated rear window on, it also puts your mirror's heated element on as well. Quite a hidden feature, because there aren't any actually symbols in here that indicate that they're heated, but from pretty much every Mercedes-Benz I've sat in, they always are. So that is really, really good. Saves you having to wipe your mirrors off as well. Now for my next one, guys, is for plug-in hybrid and all-electric owners. Did you know that you can set timers for your auxiliary heating? So whether it be a one-off timer for 1 day a week, or even if you want to do a weekly kind of set of different times and that sort of thing, it is especially useful as well if it's really icy outside. You can actually have your car effectively de-ice itself, ready for when you want to go. Now yes, you can just turn this manually on the app just like this here, flick the switch and then it will turn the heating on. This one actually stays with the heating on for up to about 50 minutes, but if you wanted, you can set weekly profiles, different times for maybe when you leave for work in the morning. And then finally, guys, my final tip and trick today is rest mode. Now rest mode is quite rare. It's not on every single Mercedes-Benz, and sadly it's not written in any of the brochures or anything like that, so you'll literally just have to have a look on your climate control and look really closely for the word rest. And on this car it's just underneath the AC button. So the way this works, it's like a temporary residual heat thing. So say you went to the shops, for example, and you got it nice and warm in here because it's really cold outside, and what you do when you turn everything off and open the door, press the rest button as you get out and it will retain the heat in here for up to 30 minutes. Now just remember that plug-in hybrids and all-electric cars won't have this because they have an auxiliary heater. Theirs will work up to 50 minutes because they have a high voltage battery and no engine, so it's a little bit different. But if you have that rest mode and you have a petrol or diesel, have a look and tap that when you want to keep it nice and warm here in the winter, and yeah, it definitely works because I've had it on the car before, and it's actually really nice to get back into a nice warm car rather than have to heat up the interior again. So that concludes that tip and trick there. And there we have it then, guys. That concludes this week's video on your Mercedes-Benz Climate Control. Now this particular video was a suggestion from you guys in the comments down below, so if you have a suggestion yourself, let me know and I might just consider it for the future. But as always, huge shout out to Sandown Mercedes-Benz, as they help provide access to all the cars you see in the video, so it'd be very, very tricky to do it without them, so huge shout out to them. But guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next week, Friday 4 PM, we'll see you then.